You guys all for coming. We are Blue Table Podcast, and we're here with President LaBrent Chrite. We're gonna start off with some questions, and we're gonna go into an interview about Black leadership. And we asked that during all of this, form some questions that you guys have. We're gonna have time for a Q&A afterwards. Yeah, thank you all for coming. So first, thank you for coming over here and being with us in the MCC. I would actually like to ask you, firstly, how's your day? Walk me through your day from morning up until here. What was your day like?
Well, first of all, it is great to see you all. Thanks so much for the opportunity to be here. This is a treat for me, and really in many ways a highlight of my day. It was a rather typical day. Let's just leave it at this is the highlight. I'm fasting today, and so hopefully I can keep the energy up. But really delighted to be here. So
Thank you so much.
That's very good. We noticed that it's very good weather outside, but you mentioned that your day was kind of boring. But it can't be boring. Do you listen to like any music? Because on the way here, I'm guessing you had your AirPods like bumping or just something.
no, I didn't, but I do listen to music constantly. It's a thing. It is. I've got different Spotify channels always on in my office, and I am heavily into different genres, and it just depends on what mood I'm in, and so it's a big part of my life and my day. Look, the day today was kind of a drag. I spent most of the morning taking my wife's car in for service. Had to deal with that, and just threw my whole schedule off. So yeah, it was rather atypical in that sense. But otherwise, it was meetings with cabinet members and colleagues and trustees, and just kind of doing that thing.
Yeah, because believe it or not, we did some research on you, and we saw that you're from Chicago. A little bit.
Well, born in
Detroit,
Chicago.
but you were
from
born in
Detroit. I'm a Detroiter.
Drill rap is like very like popular there. You don't listen to any drill.
Okay, I can't say
you
I
keep it
do.
classic.
I can't say it.
You know what Lil Durk is?
I do not. I'm sure my kids do, but I don't.
But like, what type of give me some pointers?
Yeah,
Because
like
we would like to know what
songs.
you listen to. Because we've seen you in the gym also a couple times, and we want to see what you're bumping when you're lifting some weights.
Yeah. Well, so I did. I was in the gym pretty much regularly last year. My first year here, had a little bit more time. We hadn't quite gotten the gym facility at the house yet, and then with COVID, when they opened back up, most of you students were not masking up, and so I sort of stayed away from the gym only because my wife has been sick and compromised, and now I got the setup at home, so I use it there. So cold weather. Look, I'm from Detroit. I mean, we were in Arizona. We left the University of Michigan, went to the University of Arizona, and pretty much raised our kids there. And then we were in Florida. So it had been a while since we had been back in this kind of weather, and I'm not loving it, but it is what it is. And I know it'll end soon. Other than that, it's pretty awesome here. So in terms of music, I mean, it really depends on what the mood is. I am listening to a lot of Robert Glasper. I'm listening to a lot of Cassandra Wilson.
Those are a little too old for me, but sure.
You all have to listen to Robert
It's
Glasper.
okay. We'll check him out. Right? We're definitely check him out.
Would you? I would encourage you to do that.
I'm sure, as you know, there are many cultural orgs on this campus. Shout out BUB, ASA, of course. I wanted to know kind of what your favorite cultural food is. If you had to name like one cultural food that you could eat all the time, what would it be?
So I've had the So first of all, I mean, the cultural food that I appreciate and enjoy the most is my own, and my wife's cooking, like my mother's cooking, like her mother's cooking, in the vernacular sort of soul food is it for me. So that's really my thing. It's just us now. The kids are gone, and so it's just two of us. We don't really cook like that much anymore. But I've also spent a lot of time on the continent, and I'm a huge fan of Ethiopian food, as well as the ceremony that goes along with that. But I appreciate food. We lived in Tucson, Arizona, which is 40 miles from Mexico, so Mexican food is a big deal for us. And yeah, we just try to appreciate nice eclectic mix of different foods and cultures.
So now we want to get a little bit into the bulk of today's event or public interview, and it's Black leadership. For us, for Blue Table, one of our main goals is to bring not necessarily awareness, but to promote different cultures here on campus, especially the cultures that represent leadership. And to us, the reason why we're doing this event is because you represent leadership, and we want to know more about kind of your leadership style. We know that you did some work abroad. You know that you went to different universities and did some work. We just want to know, as young leaders that we are here, what are some of the pointers that you give to us in order to not become like you, but to model someone like you?
To learn from you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I really appreciate that. And let me just say that, I think you all have heard me say this before, but it is just awesome for me to be here in front of you and to see you all do your thing. And I need to let you know how inspired I am and proud I am of each of you all for being here and for thriving. And the society needs the kind of leaders that you're going to turn into being. And so I appreciate the privilege to be a part of that. So I've been sort of uniquely fortunate. Blessed beyond wildest imagination. I've been in senior leadership roles for probably a good 30 years. And high integrity, forward thinking, high energy leadership, transcends race and ethnicity and gender, and is really independent upon circumstances. And so one of the things that I define as the kind of leadership to which I aspire is first and foremost authentic. It's got to come from, look, leadership is fundamentally about head and heart. And of those two, heart is the most important because it's the why. So authentic, it is by definition situational. Some situations require you to lead from the front, actively, demonstratively. Some require you to lead more subtly or quietly from the middle. Some require you to lead from the back. But my belief is that you have to lead. So those are I absolutely try the leadership that I try to practice is sort of transformational as opposed to sort of ad hoc or incremental. But that too depends on the situation. So that's how I try to.
And so that's wonderful. I believe that we all should be practicing high integrity leadership with authenticity. And in terms of being transformational, I think it's important to consider, what being a leader means outside of the U.S. as well. And I know you've done some work abroad. Would you like to speak on those experiences and how that impacted your leadership as a person of color?
I saw that you did some work in Africa as well. I'm going to South Africa also this May. Do you have anything for me? Because I've never been over there. So.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm glad you're going. Would be happy to have a conversation with you offline on that. So, look, when I was traveling, I was traveling on the behalf of the U.S. State Department, or behalf of the World Bank, or the Eurasia Foundation, or bilateral or multilateral agencies. And so I think effective leadership abroad, and I forgot to mention this, effective leadership everywhere, must include humility. And when you're overseas, you are a guest, you're a visitor. I don't care how opaque the marketplace might be. I don't care how underdeveloped the region might be. I don't care what kind of wealth or expertise you might possess. You just need to display a degree of humility because that's not your home. And those are what I refer to as high context environments. And you have to have the capacity to navigate those environments. Now look, I was going over there in formal roles, but if you're going over there as a student or going over there as a visitor, a tourist, just be open to new ideas and new ways of looking at the world, and get out of your U.S.-centric comfort zone. But South Africa is an awesome and deeply troubled place. So we should talk before you get over there.
Oh, okay. So that's actually very awesome that you mentioned that. But I also wanted to address something else that I think is very important for you to be coming here. It's kind of like the connection between young leaders and the staff members of Bentley University. This is something that kind of like came up in the last couple months for me, since Blue Table's mission is a little bit different, kind of like connecting cultures and different communities on campus. But something that I also want to focus is bridging the staff, faculty with the students in order to create a better campus environment for everybody. And believe it or not, you being here is actually the first step. We think that it's something great, and you mentioned that you kind of wanted to create like one of those create connections with students when last year during your inauguration as well. So can you elaborate a little bit about that, and also give us kind of like some tips to us students of how we could interact with faculty in order for us to make our events possible, in order for us to spread our cultures and bridge different communities, and even make the campus a better place in general?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the culture and community, the institutional sort of ethos, if you will, and how it affects, in particular, students of color, but all students. And you've heard the saying that culture trumps strategy any day, and I believe that. I don't care how sort of productive, high-performing organization is, if it has a suboptimal culture, then that's what's going to be borne out. I think this institution is still, I think it's infinitely better.
Yeah.
Look, I wasn't here 3, 4, 5 years ago, but I know the direction that it's taken in terms of trying to be cognizant of this and sort of address these things. But I think that as part of its cadence, we have to build in more interaction. So there was the ASA Gala.
Yeah.
We didn't go. I reached out to folks to let them know I couldn't go because of my wife's situation. But normally, it would be as a fashion show, we would have been there. It has been harder for me to be as engaged as I was even my first year, just because of her situation. She's getting over that, and I can get back to some things. But I think that the kind of events that you all have, we had the opportunity to host Coming Full Circle at the house last year. We hope to get back to some of those kind of opportunities. So this is part of the way Phyllis and I view our role here. This has just been an off year in terms of that. In terms of faculty and staff, I think, there need to be forums that we create, but perhaps more critically, that you all create, that enable folks to come together. Not situations like this per se, but just where they can come to the table. I want to say one other thing. Look, I have found it, we've had a couple of speakers on campus. I have found it hard to get students to come to events. I get it. You guys got a lot going on. But those events, many of them have been to sort of engage and fellowship with you all. And that's apparently difficult thing to do around here. So anything that you all have that would enable us to come together in fellowship, I'd like to know about it because I think it's really important.
Yeah, as we kind of head towards like wrapping up this school year, wrapping up this semester, what kind of advice would you give to students who aren't exactly sure about what path they're going to take, aren't exactly sure what major or what career path they're going into, but they're still looking to be a leader? They still want to continue to make change, but they don't exactly know what path they're going on yet.
Right. So that's a really good question. I think that the U.S. higher education system, and I love U.S. higher education, but I think we do a disservice in expecting 18, 19-year-olds to declare what it is they want to do, at 18 or 19 years. It just doesn't really make any sense. But to your question, I mean, look, you got to come here, you got to declare a major, you got to get a degree in something. So the first thing I would say is take full advantage of the resources here to just come talk about things, right? Faculty, staff, folks on my team, myself, and just bounce around some ideas. Secondly, we talk about this is what I believe. Everybody talks about, including myself. I say to my kid, I want you to do it. What you find happiness in. But I would ask you to reflect on what gives you meaning as opposed to happiness. Because what gives you meaning is eventually going to return dividends of happiness and point you in a direction. And so you do have to find work that you enjoy and work that is important to you, subject matters that excite you and inspire you, and go from there. And again, that's, I know this sounds kind of trite, taking all these courses that you understand, you don't like, but just find out where your heart is and figure out what you think that course of action is. And this is America. You're entitled to make mistakes 3, 4, 5 times over, and you'll figure it out.
On that note, can you recall a time where you kind of had to balance out meaning and happiness in terms of your leadership style or your academic or career? And it could be, when you were a kid, growing up, or it could be now. Can you just recall a time where you really had to balance out the two and was like, what, this is what I want to do versus English?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a public health guy. My master's was in public health. I worked in the public health sector, and I wanted to get into this. And I was pretty late to the game. I mean, not late compared to you all, but late for. I mean, I was past 30. I didn't have a PhD then. Had a family, had a mortgage, and I made the decision to take a really sharp pivot into a completely different industry with all kinds of risks. That was because I was just not getting the meaning that I was looking for, or the satisfaction from the previous field, and wanted to try something else. And again, you're allowed to reinvent yourself here, and did that, and it was not without risks, right? But it paid off, and that's what I mean, to sort of follow what it is that is important to me.
It's very good that you mentioned like the need to kind of like balance what makes you happy and be serious at the same time. How you need to reshape yourself and change things depending on the situation. We think that's actually very important in terms of being leaders here, especially in Bentley, where you get a ton of group projects that sometimes you need to be the person that backs away, you need to be the person that steps up. So it's very good that you mentioned that we kind of had to shape shift in order for us to be that person or let somebody else be that person. So in terms of your career, to kind of like cap it up a little bit, at the stage that you're at in this moment, would you say that you have successfully achieved everything you want to achieve? Would you say that you have become a leader that other people look up to, or is there someone else that kind of like inspires you that you want to be a leader like, if that makes sense?
Well, there are certainly people who inspire me daily, and as far as being a leader that people look up to, I don't focus on that. I try to be the best leader and best husband and father that I can be every day. I realize this is a unique and rare opportunity to be the leader of a place like Bentley, and so there's a special commitment to stewardship and the obligation, and I love it, and so I'm all in. In terms of your first question, yeah, I'm pretty satisfied. I'm one of the individuals who I have no regrets, like zero, and that is rare, and that's an incredible blessing. And because of that, my aim is to pay that forward for as long as I can. And so, yeah, I got lucky. I mean, but hard work, God's grace, luck, and here I am.
And to be quite frankly, I agree with you. I feel like you have achieved a lot, and I feel like you're achieving a lot also with the school. And I'm pretty sure me myself, but I don't know everybody else, but I'm pretty sure they'll all agree that there's a lot of good things coming about me, and not only we can see it physically, but we kind of believe it. So as we kind of come to an end with this very quick talk, is there any final thoughts, anything that you have to the people? I have to ask you a personal question. I always ask people. But any final thoughts that you have for our listeners here?
So, I guess the parting thought that I would want to leave is that this institution is only going to achieve its highest purpose, its most important aspirational goals, if you all are able to claim agency. And if you all are able and willing to imprint on the institution and therefore on people who will follow you in making sure that we improve. You're right, I am pleased with what we've done in the last 18 months. We have some serious work to do.
Yeah.
And that can only occur with the sustained energy and commitment from you all. And so just know that you all have the need to actively engage and participate so that you can shape this place for future generations. And if you do that, then all of our time here will have been spent optimally.
Yeah.
So, in honor of you coming here today, speaking with us in the Potterville Multicultural Center, and with this wonderful audience in front of us, we do have some gear for you.
Courtesy of the MCC.
Courtesy of the MCC.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Really
Thank you so
appreciate
much for, all of your insight has been personally very helpful for me, and I hope that it was very helpful for y'all too. Before we hop into a Q&A, AJ.
So this is actually part of the Q&A, but I always ask my teammates here at the table, if you could take an animal in a fight and survive, it cannot be like a chicken or a lizard. It has to be an animal that looks your size. What animal would that be? You can't use fire weapons. It has to be fist fight against it.
Okay, so I'm gonna interpret my size like colloquially.
Whichever way you want to do it, as long as you can beat it.
Beat it.
Yes,
Oh.
like you have to. You're locked in a cage with the animal that you pick, and you have to walk out of it
Huh.
after you defeat it.
Okay. So then I'm gonna go a little smaller than me because So I am again from Michigan. Did my PhD at the University of Michigan. I'm a Spartan at heart, but Michigan Wolverines. I don't know if you know Wolverines are bad little animals. And, I mean, they're vicious. But, you know, they're not that big. So I think maybe I would have a chance with a Wolverine. That's what I would go with.
I feel like you could be bigger than a Wolverine.
I don't know. Maybe a Badger. Which is the University of Wisconsin, also the Big Ten. But anything with, I mean, unless we're talking about like a deer, but I was thinking like something that was fierce.
Some people were calling me crazy because I said that I could beat an alligator in a fight.
Yeah, I just think that's
You
possible.
see, this is what I'm saying. But I have your strategy.
Okay.
But listen, that is my question. I feel like we can have a heated debate.
No doubt.
Off camera.
No doubt.
But
We can have a debate when you come talk to me about South Africa.
Yeah.
Because I want to know where you're going. You going to UCT?
no, it's one of the faculty courses.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Is it like an intern?
Yeah.
Intern type? Oh, okay.
It's
Good
like
for you.
2 weeks.
Good for you. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, but yeah, now we wanted to open it up to the audience. So if any of you guys have any questions for the president, you guys can feel free to raise your hand. We can't really give you a mic, but hopefully you'll talk loud enough that we can hear it on the camera too.
If you don't have any questions, then
Okay.
okay, go ahead.
You talked about like the risk you had to take when you wanted to switch like career paths, like from public health to like higher education.
Right.
I was just wondering if you had like any barriers along the way, or like were there a lot of people telling you like you shouldn't go this path, and if so, like how did you like keep going through it? How did you push through that?
Well, you know, I mean, we all have barriers, right? There was no one in particular who said you shouldn't try to make this transition. But when you apply or be considered for these senior roles, particularly at white institutions, yeah, there are always sort of hurdles. As you know, you gotta get over it. So I've been navigating that space for 25, 30 years. So here's one data point. My second deanship at the University of Denver. Really, probably the only place I've ever worked at that is less diverse than Bentley. It's wealthier, it's whiter, it's more privileged, it's more pristine, and they had never had a dean in the business school of color before. And they're like the 8th oldest business school in the country. And so I got there and I was interviewing, and I don't know, I think I'd gotten a job, and I was interviewing with some of my advisory board members, which are like trustees with non-fiduciary. And I was meeting these, business people, these white guys I'm used to interacting with, and I knew the vibe was just off. This was my first, I think I'd just been named, and my first meeting, a restaurant or something just before I could get to campus, the advisory board members. And I knew these guys were not feeling me. Because we know. And there was nothing I did, nothing I said. It was that they have an idea of what their dean, what the dean of that flagship business school ought to look like, and I wasn't it. And the reason I know is because after I got in the position and I'd gotten, my sea legs and began to do my thing, to his credit, he got up at the first official board meeting and apologized in public for his lack of faith in me and for his just not really feeling me. And so my point is, like, who doesn't go through that? That's just life. No one owes you anything. No one said it's fair, because it's not. Get over it and perform. And ultimately, one of the few things that you can, sorry, this is a long-winded answer. There are a couple of things that no one can ever take from you. One is how you treat people. No one can ever define how you engage and affirm or not other people. The second is no one can change how hard you're willing to work and perform. And if you get those right, the rest of this nonsense doesn't matter. That has been a lesson that I've learned and repeated wherever I've been.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, so you're obviously in a leadership position now. Like, was that something that you always saw yourself striving to achieve? Was that something that just like when you got the opportunity for it, you took it?
Yeah, I can't say that growing up in Detroit, I ever thought about myself as a leader. I mean, I would be lying if I said I aspired. I just wanted out of Detroit. I wanted to be able to support a family. I wanted to, get out of there. But very early on, there's some folks who saw some things in me that I didn't maybe even see in myself, and I started to get a little confidence and thought that I would have some potential, and began to sort of enjoy it and get lots of opportunities, made a lot of mistakes, but that's how we grow. And so so this has been the path that I've been conscious about, because it's just what I enjoy. But that didn't happen as an adolescent or as a young man.
And I think that we have time for one more question. If somebody else has one.
Rose, I don't really got to see that interview, so can you tell us what?
So I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question.
I said as president, we don't really get to see much of you, so can you tell us what a day in your life is?
Yeah. So I will, but let me just say that I'm over there, the third floor, Raoul Hall. My door is always open. And frankly, I've seen far too few of you all in my office. There are some that I've seen, but you all need to come by. You can call my office at any time, get an appointment. And I hope that you'll find some time to make sure that we can touch base in that way. So this job is this job requires a lot of effort in shaping the trajectory and the capacity of this university. And in many ways, that means, if I can say this respectfully, adjusting the trajectory of the institution, right? And so I'm a business school guy. So in that sense, coming to a business-oriented university was a good fit. But this university had a pretty sort of conservative worldview and had a very distinct reputation and viewed its students and students of color in a particular way. And one of the things that I needed to do and wanted to do was broaden that aperture, broaden that lens through which this community, from alumni to trustees to faculty and staff, began to view folks like you all and I guess folks like me. So a lot of that means putting in the right leadership team. We got a new dean of business, we got a new provost, we got a new multiple new vice presidents. It means exposing them to ideas that are new to them, and so that is what much of my time is: raising resources, getting partnerships, getting people to get on board with the strategy. That is what takes up most of my time. So unfortunately, it's a lot of meetings. But that's just how it goes. But again, I think there's been real progress, and this is why we'll continue to try to move the needle. Yeah, sure.
You mentioned you attended University of Michigan. My dad he also graduated there.
Okay.
So and he spoke to you like a few months ago during family weekend.
That's right.
And he talked about like forming a group of African American students. So do you have any recollection of that?
Yeah. So the when I was really I went to my undergrad at Michigan State, the other great public university in Michigan, and I did my doctoral work at the University of Michigan. But the University of Michigan in the early 90s was the most diverse and welcoming to students of color, top MBA program in the country. And it's really fortunate for me that I was there then, at that time. And what I learned from that is, as we talk about diversity and inclusivity and pluralism and equity, which we talk about a lot around here, and a lot of alumni, older alumni, tell me I'm not giving them any more money because all you do is talk about diversity, and I've got trustees saying, why are you spending so much time doing this? And that is just the nature of the dynamic. But what I learned from Michigan is that they've got the argument wrong. What I learned is that you cannot achieve sustained excellence unless you have a population that reflects the rich tapestry and pluralism of this country. And I can make the moral case, I can make the philosophical case, I can make the economic case, but I prefer the strategic imperative, and that is, if we want to succeed in a world that is increasingly brown, and then we have to have a community that reflects that. And that's an easy argument for me to put forward, even if folks don't understand it. And they don't understand it, I don't really care. Most understand it, and most appreciate it, and that is why the work that you all are doing in creating communities is so important. And so, I'm sorry, I know we're out of time, but let me just say this. I am not trying to create an environment in which communities of color need to feel apartness, right? I'm not looking to make sure Chinese students can hang out with the Chinese students, and white folks, brown folks can hang with them, and we've got South Asian students over here, and African students over here. I'm not suggesting that. What I do recognize is that unless and until there's a critical mass of folks of color in a community, that community can be difficult to navigate. And like, this space is amazing. And I know you all will welcome and extend it to everyone. But this space is important, particularly now, because you're still so underrepresented on campus. That's the dynamic. And we have an obligation to deal with that. And in part, this and other things that we're doing is what that looks like. So, sorry.
That was the perfect topic.
No, that was the perfect thing. And it's very good that you mentioned that, because like this new room right here, we have seen a lot of faces that we've never seen before. And that basically accomplished the goal of building this bigger space with more technology to allow students to come in. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you today. You offered a lot of great insight, a lot of good perspective on many different things that I'm pretty sure that everybody here, including myself, could take away from. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been President LaBrent Chrite. Please give him a round of applause.
And for those of you who I haven't seen in my office, we've got 3.5 more months before the semester ends. So let's get some meetings scheduled. All right, I want to hear your story and know what we can do to better support you. Thank you all for this. And keep up the great work. All right.